Okay, so this is a revision video of how glucose is transported from the lumen of the ileum in the small intestine into the blood. This is a common point of confusion. It brings together a lot of what you've learnt in the transport across membranes topic. So could be an exam question, and if you understand it, then it's an easy sort of 3, maybe even 6 mark answer. So have a go if you want to at the question. So describe and explain how glucose is transported from the ileum to the small intestine. So pause, have a go at that, and then we'll describe it. Okay, so we want to start in this bottom left corner. So in the epithelial cell of the small intestine, let's put a 1 here. This is where we're starting, step 1. You'll notice that we've got sodium on the inside of the cell, in the cytoplasm, and then there's going to be sodium in the blood. What you hopefully will notice, and what I've depicted rather crudely here, is just that there is more sodium, a higher sodium concentration in the blood than in the cell. So what the cell does first is to transport sodium into the blood. How is it going to do this? Well, it's going to have to use active transport because it's moving the sodium against a concentration gradient. So if it wants to move it into the blood, it's going to have to use active transport. So sodium ions will get transported out. Obviously, that will use ATP. Remember, that's going to be converted to ADP. So that's an active process that's requiring ATP. What will that mean? Well, obviously then you're reducing the sodium ion concentration in the cell. So that's step 1. So let me reveal to you step 1. So that's what you should be writing as your first stage. So second step is here. So we focus at the top of the cell here. So you'll notice, you know what these are called, these structures protruding from the cell. They are the microvilli, remember. Obviously these would be throughout the whole of the cell membrane, but I've just missed a few so I can show you this transporter. So the next step is that you've reduced the sodium, or the sodium concentration has been reduced in the cell by active transport out. So what that means is that sodium ions will diffuse down their concentration gradient into the cell by facilitated diffusion. What actually happens is that the sodium ions use this sodium glucose co-transporter. So this is where co-transport comes in. So what happens is glucose in the ileum can actually hitch a ride on that co-transporter and is transported in with the sodium ions. What does that mean? Well, it means that you've suddenly got an increased glucose concentration inside the cell. So that's step 2. So if you want to read that, check your answer. I think there's a line, shouldn't be in the way there. So now we've got an increased glucose concentration in the cell compared with in the blood. What does that mean? Well, it means that glucose can now diffuse down the concentration gradient via facilitated diffusion, via this channel protein into the blood. So then you've basically moved the glucose down its concentration gradient into the blood. And that's step 3. I should have written on this. So that's really that third step, if we want to put it in 3 steps. And this is the description you should have given. So that's it. That's the overview of transport of glucose from the ileum of the small intestine into the blood.